The meeting is now live.
Okay, welcome everybody to Thursday, June 11th, 2020 school board meeting. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, under communications, number 1, to participate during the meeting, please submit questions relating to agenda items to Dr. Garden at rgarden@trycreek.k12.in.us. Once again, that's rgardin@trycreek.k12.in.us. During the meeting, he will monitor incoming messages. And number 2, a thank you letter from Franciscan Health Foundation. Dr. Garden?
Yes, that's a letter from Franciscan Foundation for all the PPE that we donated at the beginning of COVID. So right when we ended our in-person education, and we had lots of things that we weren't going to use, like Clorox wipes, hand sanitizer, masks that we donated, and they were mostly used at the Dyer campus, where they were in critical need. It might not seem, they're a hospital. You might think, okay, they can just buy their own. Well, there weren't supplies to buy at that time. And there still aren't supplies to buy. So we donated, rounded up throughout all of our schools. Again, hand sanitizer, masks, gowns, temperature probes, goggles, all to help the healthcare workers so they could help everybody throughout the region.
Good.
And as a follow-up to that, Franciscan's been a really good partner ever since. At the lunch meal kit pickups, they have been providing kind of like activity bags for the kids with coloring items in there, crayons, safety magazines, and they also provide a really nice booklet for parents of community resources for all different kinds of health needs. And then they also paid for the online or virtual entertainment that we had, the family night, and it was kind of a magician. And so Franciscan also provided 100 playing cards for people to play along in that presentation that night. And then just this week, I've been working with the same person from Franciscan. Can you mute Mrs. Dumsky?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. One of the things that we're looking at when we return to school is making sure that kids have water. And we know that we probably don't want them using our water fountains because that's just a spot where you can transmit disease or illnesses. So I've been talking with Franciscan, and they confirmed Wednesday that they will be providing water, not bottles of water, but water bottles for each of our students. So we'll be getting over 3,000 water bottles from Franciscan at no cost.
That's why I hate muting. Okay, that's really good. I love it when we do develop the partnerships, and even with our health classes or anything else, when you have somebody that you're working with, that's a great opportunity. So I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate everything that they've done, as well as your forethought in sharing with what we had and we're not using. So thank you very much for that. Okay, next, under the consent agenda, to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, May 14th, approve the minutes of the special meeting held on Thursday, May 28th, and approve payroll and claims.
Make motion.
Who motioned for that?
Lon.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments in regards to that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes for consent agenda. Under E, personnel report. Approve the monthly personnel report dated Thursday, June 11th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Diana will make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will make a second.
Yeah, someone pick.
Go ahead.
Kyle will make a second.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? I know we have a new employee here. After we vote, we can hear from Dr. Garden in regards to that. Do I have any other questions or comments in regards to personnel? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Dr. Garden, would you like to tell us about our new employee?
Yes, and Mrs. Patrick is here too. Actually, you have two new employees in your audience.
Oh, okay.
You have Polly Franklin, who will be teaching Spanish at Lowell High School, and Shannon, do you pronounce your last name Qualley? Yes, okay. And Shannon will be fourth grade at Three Creeks Elementary School.
I
Do
actually
either
have here today, Rod.
I'm sorry. Angela?
Michael Schoon, the social studies teacher.
Oh, there's Michael up there. Yeah. Hey, Michael. Michael Spoon is also going to be at Lowell High School, and Jay just texted me Michael is there. Yes, I see now. Michael is going to be social studies at the high school. He'll be teaching AP Psych and government. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So if any of the three new ones would like to say anything to the board, little background of where you're from and why you chose to be in Lowell. Oh, we lost Polly. Where'd she go? Mike, do you have anything you'd like to say? Oh, Polly's back. Good. Okay, Mike's up.
All right, I'll go. Hi, my name is Michael Schoon. I moved here to Shelby last year. I grew up in Chicago Heights, went to school in Indiana in high school. I guess, and I would just like to say I thank you all for being here for us and supporting the school like you do.
Hey, Mike, how'd you make it from the Chicago Heights to Shelby? That's what I want to know.
Well, if you're from the area a little bit, I actually was from Linwood, which
Oh,
is a smaller town outside of Chicago Heights.
I know
My
about that.
family had a. Oh, you know Linwood a little well?
Oh, yeah, my wife's grandmother lived there.
Oh, okay.
In the
Did you
trailer
ever
park?
hear Spoon's Auto Body on Torrance Avenue?
Yeah.
That's my family business,
Oh, okay.
or was our family business.
Oh.
We went out of business in 2008 when that recession hit.
Yeah.
And we moved all the way out to Morocco, Indiana.
Morocco.
Morocco. It was by a town that our church did service at, Hopkins Park in Illinois.
Oh,
and-
Hopkins Park.
Yeah, we used to service Hopkins Park. We used to chop firewood and help people out there.
Yeah.
And so Morocco was basically around the corner as around the corner can be. And we saw a house there that we really liked and decided to move out there.
Well, welcome
freshman year of
aboard.
high school.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Definitely welcome. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I muted I trying to figure out the muted and all that stuff. Hi, I'm Polly Franklin, and hopefully I'll be your new Spanish teacher at the high school. Thank you very much for hiring me. I'm actually a Lowell High School grad, class of '84. So, and I'm excited to finish out my career where I started my Spanish, my Spanish journey, as I like to call it.
Polly,
Can you hear
I
Yeah.
want to welcome you aboard. And we've had some trouble with our Spanish teachers in the past, so I really hope you're doing this good.
Well, going back to what Michael, was that his name, said about the recession, this is actually Lowell's going to be my 8th job. Every job except the first one, which I taught in Georgia for a year, because my husband was in the Army down there. Every job I've ever had, my intention has been to retire from there. But unfortunately, like Michael, was that his name, Michael?
Yes, yes.
2008 with the recession, that I was up in Wisconsin, and yeah, I ended up coming back home to Indiana. My husband and I and our kids, and yeah, it's been a good journey, but I'm glad to be back home.
Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
we're glad you came back too.
Yeah.
Holly, do you recall who your PE teacher was in high school?
Oh, geez. Don Bales. Shoot. I remember a couple things about Jim, but Mr. Bales was one of the teachers. Floor hockey, swimming first hour, and running the mile around the gym, which we had around the top there. I don't know if it is that way anymore, but yeah. The high school has changed a lot since I was there. So, yeah, we had that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if Patty was there at that time. No, okay.
Well, I don't know. No, she looks familiar to me. I mean, honestly, she really does, and I don't know if it's that Mrs. Gunderson. Was she a middle school VIA teacher? I don't remember. My husband is sitting here laughing at me right now because I don't remember my high school gym. I'm sorry. I'm old.
Well, welcome aboard, Polly. We're glad you're here.
And thank you very much. I'm so excited. You have no idea how excited I am. I mean, I still pinch myself every day saying, wow, I'm going home. It's kind of cool.
Shannon?
Hello, I'm a Lowell graduate too, and I graduated in 1995. And Miss McCormick, Patty, was my health teacher. And Mrs. Gunderson was the middle school PE teacher. Her and
That's
Mrs.
what I
Wyman.
thought.
Mrs. Wyman was the PE teacher. So I grew up in Lowell. I've been in Lowell my whole life. My kids go to Lowell. I have a son that Braden, he's going to be a sophomore this year coming up. And then my daughter Hannah is in middle school. She'll be a 7th grader. So they keep me very busy with softball and football. We're busy all the time. So I'm super excited to get to finally teach. I stayed home with my kids, and then I came back, and I've been all over Northwest Indiana subbing and doing maternity leaves, and you name it, I've done it. And I am super excited. This year I got to fill in for Mrs. Hanger because she was on maternity leave and she decided not to come back. So I am so excited to finally get my teaching job. So.
Well, welcome. And we appreciate you coming back home. Like full circle. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Welcome back to Lowell.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, Dr. Gardner?
No, not who is present in the meeting with us, no.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Under F, old business, number 1, award the purchase of milk and dairy products to Dean's Dairy distributed by Schenkel's Dairy, Huntington, Indiana for the 2020-2021 school year, and award the purchase of bread and bakery products to Alpha Baking Company, Chicago, Illinois for the 2020 and 2020-2021 school year. That won't be an issue if we change anything up at all with anything, right?
I was just texting Dana about that, that you may want to just table this for right now.
Yes,
you can come back in 2 weeks and we'll still be okay.
Okay, yeah. Do I have a motion to table this then, please?
So moved.
I'll
Diana,
second.
second. Oh,
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any to table this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, number 2, approve the recommendation for the extension of the Do we need to table this also? Yes. Okay, so do I have a motion to table item number 2?
I'll make the motion. Diana will.
Do I have a second?
Lionel second. What's the number 2?
Approving the recommendation for extension of the food to service purchasing block.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and table both of those. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. I'm for, not two.
No, okay. Motion passes. Or table, sorry. Okay, under new business, number 1, approve the recommendation to extend the support staff vacation benefit use to December 31st, 2020 for the 1920 vacation allocation. Dana, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I'm asking if we could please extend the vacation time that our support staff receive. These are our 12-month employees here, or 260-day employees. I'm asking that if we could extend that benefit so that they could take those days until December 31st. They normally expire by June 30th. And given the shutdown of schools, not many people got to take a vacation during that time. They were either working from home or working in the district, and things were shut down and they couldn't get their rest and relaxation. So I'm asking that we could extend that. There's not many people that this really affects, but the ones that do have been working really hard in our buildings as far as custodial and maintenance. A lot of them are in that group, and they've been hard working hard cleaning our buildings.
So this won't create a hardship once we go back to school, though, because it is so few employees that are affected.
It's very clear in there, and it'll be clear to the employees that we can only schedule this with supervisor approval. So we will schedule. Yes, that's a very good point, because we don't want everyone taking off during winter break or right around that time or right at the start of school. So yes, it'll be scheduled with supervisor approval.
Okay.
Right, so moved.
I'm sorry? Lon, did you motion?
Yes, I said so moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, accept the donation from the Benevity Community Impact Fund in the amount of $83.51 to support anti-bullying activities at Oak Hill Elementary School. That's awesome. Do we know where this community is at or from? Dr. Garden, do you know? Okay. All right.
No.
Do I have a motion to?
Sorry, don't. But Dana, did you see that form?
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the donation?
I'll make the motion, Diana.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second Doug.
Okay. All right. I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Under other information, Dr. Garden, or do you have anything? Or does the board?
Not under other information, but maybe you had a printed out agenda. In our agenda, we had an item 2 there, and that's why Ms. McCormick is here tonight with us. It's approving the 2020 Red Devil return to play phased guidelines.
Do you guys want me to go through all 96 pages of this, or would you like the Reader's Digest version?
I was going to say, you wrote a book.
I did write a book. We've waited a long time for guidance on this, and it finally came last week. And so we started long ago piecing this together. So I've bulleted some things so that I can fly through those. And then anything you have a question on, just throw my way. Um, we have a very conservative approach to putting our kids back into a practice setup. And as you know, the state has broken things down into 3 phases to get us to return all the way back to full competition. So the best thing we did, I think, was last week when you approved the pre-participation physicals were going to be required of all of our kids. I think that's a really important first step. We have gone above and beyond what what's been mandated, and have, like I said, put a really conservative approach in place. So the first thing we did was we reduced the number of athletes on campus by omitting all winter and spring teams. Only our fall teams will be coming in, and we are not letting our middle schoolers come in. So by reducing the numbers on campus, that'll resume when we get to August 31st for our fall and winter teams. We think that we greatly improve our chances of being safe. Our teams are restricted to 8 hours a week instead of 15 that the state will allow. Our groups can meet virtually 4 hours, but we are only going to have the kids in phase 1 for 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. All workouts will be Monday through Thursday, nothing on Fridays, and we've staggered when they come in. We've staggered so that we can screen the kids as they come in. In phase 1, they will have temperature checks and they'll have a verbal screening when they come in the gate. If they're late for practice and they don't fall within that 15-minute screening window, they don't practice that day. They can condition 2 days and they can participate 2 days in sport-specific things, but we're going to be very strict that every kid that comes through the gates are screened. We've moved all our teams outside. We've moved our training room outside. The exception to that will be volleyball and cheerleading. Those are the only 2 teams that'll be inside the schoolhouse during the sessions, unless obviously we would have an emergency outside. We would bring the kids in and distance them. The weight room and fitness rooms are all off limits during phase 1, that first 3 week. We are not going to let kids gather in either of those places. Obviously, we'll have the appropriate number of restrooms available. In the second phase, weight room only goes to 50% capacity, but ironically allows a spotter. There is no way to spot somebody in the weight room. And so we're just going to have to put the precautions in place as the state allows us on that. But no weight room, no locker rooms, no places really for kids. They come dressed, they leave dressed. Basically, the locker room is their car, the trunk of their car. Let me flip and we're really going to be stressing one of the things that's come out of the state, from the state level, which is kids really need to shower before they come to practice, and they need to shower as soon as they get home. High school kids, and that's not going to be an easy task, but we're really going to have to drive that home. Included in that would be the cleaning of clothes. Kids have to come in for their daily workout in clean clothes. If they come in dirty football pants, they're going home. We have to make sure that their personal hygiene and that their parents get on board with us, so that anything we can do to reduce the risk of spread, we're certainly going to put in place. The recommendations for masks, Michelle, you've alluded to this a couple times. The recommendation is whenever it is safe for kids to wear masks. And again, by putting them outside, we do a good job with distancing is a lot easier outside. But, with athletes, when they're running, masks are not going to work when they are, when their heart rate is up. But they have made some recommendations that when they're on the sidelines or heat isn't a factor or things like that, our kids wear masks. So we're requiring our kids to have their own water bottles, their own masks, their own towels, clearly labeled. They stay with them. There's no common drinking areas. They bring enough water with them to get them through practice. And all of those things that allow kids to transmit and share and make bad decisions. We're breaking our groups down into smaller teaching groups as per the state's recommendations. We have some really big teams. I think football is probably going to knock on the door with about 100 kids. We can't do anything to reduce those size without running multiple sessions. But for the most part, we're getting almost all of our workouts done in the morning. We're spacing them out. We're getting them in the cool of the day. And because those teams are of an appropriate size, we can, and multiple coaches, we can do some appropriate distancing there. The only sport in Indiana by rule that is a contact sport is football. So there's obviously no contact in phase one. In phase two, there is contact, and that would involve football. That's about 3 weeks in, right before we head into August. They don't consider soccer contact. If we were bringing basketball in, they don't consider basketball contact. Now, I don't know what's being watched, but those are contact sports to me. Cheerleading is a contact sport, but that's not an IHSAA sport. So I guess that's why it wouldn't fall under there. But knowing that, we're going to follow the phases to the letter of the law and reduce as much contact as we can. But 2 of those 4 days each week are sport specific. The toys come out, the balls come out. So there's going to be contact. So we just have to put these other provisions in place. All of our coaches and staff members will be required to complete the safety modules, which haven't been released from the Department of Ed yet, but that'll be a requirement before they start. Every coach will be required to have a virtual meeting with their team, explaining all the safety procedures and the protocols going in. And all of our parents will have to sign off that they understand the inherent risk involved with sending their kid in to an environment, which is obviously an environment that exists everywhere, but where COVID could exist or could be transmitted. The athletic training room, that's always a hovering place for kids, and that can no longer happen. There's going to be posted rules and regulations about distancing, even restrooms. You can't let kids go in there and hover because they want to get in the shade. So we'll be posting all of those practices outside. Joe and I already talked, and we've ordered a whole boatload of signs for inside and out to make sure that our policies are in place. One of the things we're going to do is make a concerted effort so that the kids know what the signs are. To get a kid to tell you that they have those signs is one thing, but for a kid to know what those signs are is another thing. So even if they won't say it out loud, and they might not have that temperature that reaches the 100.4. A lot of schools are not messing with the temperatures because there are some inaccuracies with them. But it is a screening tool that if we're bringing kids directly from their cars into the practice facility, that we think would be a net that might catch some potential problems. One of the things that we've really got to do is we've really got to remain diligent. The rest of the world has opened back up. For the most part, we see that once those doors open, everybody got pretty loose with things. But we can't do that in this entry in, because if we blow this early, there's not going to be a phase 2 and a phase 3. And so we're going to be the first ones out of the gate. We have to be ultra conservative, and our coaches are going to be told the letter of the law what has to be done in the situations that they're going to be put in. We'll have our emergency plans in place. We'll follow all the DOE. I didn't reiterate all the recommendations from the Department of Ed, but everything: hand sanitization, washing of hands, soap, and having all of that available, the masks, clean clothes, no sharing of items. But even in terms of the hydration stations, only our sports medicine people would be able to refill water bottles if needed. Other than that, competition begins. When that date begins, we had to move our football scrimmage with Maryville. It was scheduled for a Friday night on August the 14th. And if we run it that way, we can have no spectators. If we move it to Saturday and run it Saturday night, we can have spectators. I will tell you right now, I don't know what that's going to look like. Probably it'll look a lot like it would if we had graduation in the football stands. Marks on the seats. You can sit here. You can sit here. But attendance will not look the same as it has. There are restrictions on concessions right now that they're working to get put into place so that we can have those. It's going to be a challenging year for us all the way around. But the good news is, if we do this right, our kids are going to have a chance to return to that normalcy that we're all craving. I can assure you that we are well in excess of what the baseline mandates are to keep our kids safe. I know I went fast. Any questions?
Patty, do they have any protocols in place if somebody does test positive?
Yes. Well, we do the screenings at the door and they go home immediately. We'll have the coaches will be right there with our trainers. And if their parents dropped them off, they shouldn't be very far. They have to come back and get those kids right away. And then they'll be following the Department of CDC guidelines for they go home, they have to have 2 clean tests before they come back, no fever. That protocol is very clearly spelled out, just like it would be if a student tested positive at school. One of the things for us that will have big impact is if a kid within a team tests positive, we don't catch it or it's not caught. That tracing will have to take place, and obviously we take attendance every day so that we know who is where and when. But one of the things that will happen is if we have kids that go out for COVID, they will, once they return after that 10 or 14 days, whichever it ends up being, they will still have to get those required minimum 6 practices in. So we will lose kids probably a minimum of 3 weeks when we have a positive case. And we just have to do our best to make sure that if that happens, they're screened at the gate, and we just have to be on our toes.
So, Patty, let me ask, what we've been hearing as far as for schools, if we have a positive case within our schools, what we're hearing right now.
We haven't been given the clarification in terms of does a kid have, once that kid tests positive, obviously everybody would have to be tested that in that group that they've been, but I don't know that it would shut down the entire program. That's why they really want us to stick in those small groups. And that's why football will have to have multiple sessions. So we put 100 kids out there, then we've got 100 kids to go down at the same time. The original plan was that we would lose a third of the season right off the front end. There will be weeks where opposing schools will go down and we will lose a game that week. That school could be us, and we would be down for 2 weeks. I mean, it's just the way that it's going to shake out. So all we can do is be really ultra conservative on the front end. The good news is this is the least affected population, but we also have to be concerned and get things in place to protect our coaches. No offense, coaches, but they're not spring chickens either. So we've got to we have to make sure that they want to be there, that they understand the inherent risk, and that they're protected as much as possible. So that it's a broad net to cast. Any other questions?
So you're saying
you mentioned it before about the showers and everything else, but can we please make sure we reiterate to the parents also about how once they come home from this and they've been in touch with other students and other, basically when you're in touch with a student, you're in touch with their entire family unit. So when their student gets home, it's important for them to shower and everything else before they interact with the people within the home also. So I just want them to make sure that they take it seriously for their parents and their grandparents or whoever else may live with them too. So
absolutely. They bring everything in the gate and they take everything out of the gate.
That's exactly the point.
We've got some really good things in place where we can educate our parents through our final forums and things like that. And they're probably going to be pretty sick of us, but really, it's really important that we get the message out and that we get it into the ears of everyone, so that they know the symptoms as well as the kids. And there are some really good preventative things, but they're not things kids normally do. Clean clothes every day, wash your hand often, wash them vigorously. Don't share things. Kids like to share. You can no longer do high fives. You can't do a chest bump. You can't hug each other. Volleyball, they all come together and they do this little thing in the middle, and they have to do it. Whether they do good things or bad things, they still run to the middle. And I talked to the association last week and said, we need to stop changing benches in volleyball. You know how you follow the team to the other side? That's unnecessary. We've never needed to do that, and we certainly don't need to do it now. So we'll get better as we go along. But for everyone, we're just going to really have to be on our toes, and we're going to really have to talk to our kids.
Now, Governor Holcomb moved some of the dates as far as the public opening up. Did that affect any of the stages with your sports or with the athletes?
What was really good was the original date that we were supposed to cut loose was going to be on July 1. And then the dates for bigger gatherings was going to be on the 4th. Well, we were ahead of that. And we decided to give our kids that week of moratorium, give our staff that Monday, and then hit it hard on that Tuesday. So we actually landed on the date perfectly by our original delay was going to be a week. So we had something good already in place. We really haven't had to change anything.
Now you mentioned about the spectators. Are you going to limit how many can come to anything?
I believe that, again, when the governor opens that up and says, okay, you can have everybody you want come in, but you're still supposed to social distance. Well, the definition of social distancing is still 6 feet. So does that mean at a soccer game, I can have everybody come in and you need to be away from each other, but bring some lawn chairs too? I mean, you don't want to limit people from watching their kids, but at the same time, we all know the reality of our home stands on a football night. There's no social distancing of any kind. Whether or not that will alleviate, a month from now, I mean, this is a living, breathing situation for all of us. Do I think we'll get to that place where it's just open the doors and go get your favorite seat? Because we have people that are married to the seat that they sit in every week. So it's going to be a real challenge on a Friday night. I can tell you that. I don't think we're going to have to limit any other sports, truthfully. Soccer, we may have to spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
We have some games where we get a lot of people in there. But as Doug will tell you, distancing in soccer is never a bad thing. So, the biggest provision will obviously be, and when we have some really big races, like the Bob Thomas race, that is and that's the other problem is it's one thing to take care of our house, but now we have communities coming in and bringing their community with them. So that adds fuel to the fire. So we're just going to do the best we can and be smart about it.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? Or any other questions?
Thanks, Lenny.
Yeah, that had to be quite a bit of work putting that all together. I can't even imagine trying to hit up on every little detail of practice, weight rooms, games, everything. So thank you for you and your committee for all that work. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done, Patty.
That's been a good, had a lot of help, and I appreciate all of them.
All right. Anything else, Dr. Garden?
Yes, just to let the community know and whoever might be in our meeting on YouTube right now, we have a really robust reentry committee working on our plans. When I say robust, we have 35 core members and about 24 members on our subcommittees working on our reentry plans and trying to determine how we're best going to start school. One thing that we are sure of, we are going to start school Tuesday, August 18th. We're going to have kids in buildings, as it is right now, unless something falls apart. But we are planning having kids in our buildings on that first day. What we don't yet know, thanks, Dana. What we don't yet know is how many kids that will be. Dana texted me, we need to go back and you need to approve Patty's plan.
That was not on my agenda, so I thought that was just other information. So
Yeah, no, we're asking for your approval. Sorry about that.
okay. Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the plans for the reentry for athletics?
Kyle make a motion.
Oh, go ahead. Second.
Kyle make a motion.
Lon, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Sorry about that.
No, my fault too. So thank you. Going back, we will start school on the 18th of August, like we had planned. Again, we didn't know exactly what it's going to look like. From the parent survey that we did, and we had close to 800 responses on the parent survey, which I think is phenomenal. A good portion of our parents, about 80%, saying they're okay with their kids coming back to school. 20% are a little hesitant. So we're going to work on developing a plan to help those other 20% of parents feel more comfortable with their kids coming back to school. We are working on all different aspects of what that's going to look like. When we met today as our committee, I asked them, picture Students' Day and Employees' Day from when they're coming to when they leave. What do we need to do differently all throughout our day, from thinking about things, how we're going to move through hallways, how kids are going to get drinks of water, what's going to happen in the classroom, what's your schedule going to be for hand sanitation, what's our bathroom schedule going to look like, how we're going to feed kids. So again, looking at the entire day, step by step by step. So we've got enough people on that committee, and some really talented people, of course, who are going to help work on that. So we are pushing ahead, and I just need to, let the board know. I think you already know it. Your administrative team is amazing. Throughout all of this, they've never given up. They've never backed off. They've never said, I can't do this anymore. They have pushed on and on and on. And with every curveball thrown to them, they've done a remarkable job. And so, your administrative, all your principals, your assistant principals, your administrative staff at the corporation office, they're really an awesome bunch of people who are working very diligent, very hard, very creatively of, okay, how do we help people feel good about coming back to school and coming back to work? And what do we need to provide for them? What do we need to do for them to help them feel okay? So just want you to know that.
I agree. They're amazing.
Yeah, I second that. I think all of us will agree that we have, well, we always say we have unbelievable staff and we have unbelievable students in law. I think we are just so lucky. And I will say that our administration staff, I have complete faith in them. Like if when something comes up, I know they will step up and have it taken care of. And this year, who would have ever have thought we'd be in the place that we are? And they handled it with grace and patience, a lot more than I had. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I know that their main concern is always the student. So our employees across the board, they always are taking our students into consideration. And so thank you to all of them. The fact that we are looking at going into another year when last year that was the way it was, there's so many unknowns, making multiple plans. And like I said, just thank you. I agree with you, Dr. Garden. We have great administration, and thank you. That's something I don't think I've said enough, for your leadership role in this. Has not been easy. And I know most of it has all been done from home, and you've done what you could to include the community and the students and to keep them involved and up to date. So thank you for that also.
Thank you.
Hey, I got a question for you, Rod.
Okay.
When is the governor going to let us meet for real? This virtual stuff is killing me.
You can do that right now. We can have groups of under 250.
Oh.
And then after July 4th, you can have groups over 250 as long as you use social distancing. So we can meet. You have a meeting coming up on the 18th. That'll be in person. That's just an exec session. Then you'll have one on the 25th. You'll have a public session then. So you'll be back together. We are going to have social distancing, and we don't think that'll be possible in the current boardroom, especially if we have audience members. So we're going to use the cafeteria at the middle school. That way the board members can be appropriately spaced, and then members of the audience, if there are any, they can be appropriately spaced as well.
Sounds great.
I agree, Lon. I can't stand this stuff.
I can't. It's killing me.
Yeah. Dr. Garden, did we receive any emails? Any questions?
No, we
None.
didn't. No, I've been checking throughout the meeting, and I just refreshed, and nothing.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Nope. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Okay.
Good
Yep.
night.
Bye.